Love is a journey, filled with moments of pure joy, heartache, and realizations that change everything. In this story, we witness the power of love, the kind that is tested by time, torn by arguments, and eventually healed by the undeniable connection between two souls. Before we dive into this emotional roller coaster, make sure to subscribe and join us for more heart-touching stories like this one. Stage 1. A beautiful beginning. Emma had always been someone who believed in love, but never thought she'd find it so effortlessly. Then she met Jack. They crossed paths at a small cafe on a rainy afternoon, both escaping the downpour. Emma was sitting by the window, lost in thought, when Jack asked if he could share her table. What started as casual conversation quickly turned into something more. They talked for hours about life, dreams, and the kind of love they'd both been searching for. Jack was charming and thoughtful, and Emma felt like she had known him forever. As weeks passed, their connection only deepened. They spent their weekends exploring new places together, going on hikes, visiting art galleries, and cooking dinner together while dancing to old songs in Emma's small kitchen. One night, they went on a spontaneous road trip to the beach. Under the blanket of stars, with the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, Jack took Emma's hand and said, "I've never felt this way before. You make everything feel so right, so easy." Emma smiled, her heart racing as she looked into his eyes. "Me too," she whispered. In that moment, it felt like the world had disappeared, leaving just the two of them, wrapped in the warmth of something pure and magical. They spent the night lying on the sand, talking about their future, promising to never lose the spark that had brought them together. Over the next few months, their love grew. Jack would surprise Emma with flowers at work, and Emma left little love notes in his pockets. They laughed more than they ever had before, and every moment spent together felt like a piece of heaven. Friends often commented on how perfect they seemed, and for a while, they believed it too. There was a lightness to their relationship, a kind of happiness that felt unbreakable. They couldn't imagine a future without each other. Stage 2. The storm of arguments. But as life often goes, perfection doesn't last forever. After a year of being together, things started to change. Emma's job became more demanding, and Jack was going through a difficult time at work. The stress that weighed on them both began to seep into their relationship. The small things that once felt charming now became sources of irritation. Emma would come home exhausted, expecting Jack to comfort her, but he was too preoccupied with his own frustrations. They started fighting about things that didn't even matter: who left the dishes in the sink, who forgot to call back. At first, the arguments were minor, but they slowly escalated. Jack accused Emma of not caring enough, and Emma felt Jack was shutting her out. The playful banter they used to share turned into cutting remarks, and every conversation seemed to end in anger or silence. They stopped going on adventures, stopped dancing in the kitchen, and the joy that once filled their lives seemed like a distant memory. One evening, after a particularly heated argument, Jack shouted, "Maybe we're not meant to be together after all." Emma's heart shattered. She stared at him, her chest tight with pain, unable to believe the words he had just said. Tears welled up in her eyes as she turned away, unable to face the man she thought she would spend forever with. Jack left the apartment that night, slamming the door behind him. Emma was left alone, sitting on the floor, wondering if their love had all been an illusion. Days passed, and the distance between them grew. They barely spoke, and when they did, it was only to exchange cold, empty words. The love they once shared felt like it was slipping through their fingers, and both of them silently wondered if this was the end. Stage 3. Fighting for love. As the days stretched on, the silence between them became unbearable. Both Emma and Jack felt the weight of their emptiness, but neither wanted to be the first to reach out. Emma spent her nights lying awake, replaying their last argument in her head. She couldn't shake the feeling that despite everything, she still loved Jack more than anything. She missed his laugh, his touch, and the way he made her feel alive. Jack, too, found himself drowning in regret. Every time he thought of Emma, his heart ached. He missed her warmth, her kindness, and the way she understood him better than anyone ever had. He realized that the arguments, the stress, they were temporary, but the love they had, the bond they shared, that was something worth fighting for. One night, after what felt like an eternity apart, Jack couldn't take it anymore. He showed up at Emma's door, drenched from the rain, his hands shaking as he knocked. When Emma opened the door, her breath caught in her throat. Jack looked at her with eyes full of regret and longing. Without saying a word, he stepped inside and wrapped her in his arms. They stood there in silence for what felt like forever, holding each other as if afraid to let go. "I'm sorry," Jack whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I never meant any of it. I don't want to lose you." Emma pulled back just enough to look into his eyes, her own filled with tears. "I don't want to lose you either," she replied softly, "but we can't keep hurting each other like this." They sat down and talked for hours, pouring out their hearts. They spoke of their fears, their insecurities, and the ways they had let each other down. But more importantly, they reminded each other of the love that had brought them together in the first place, the love that had weathered the storm, even when it felt like it might not survive. They realized that while love wasn't always easy, it was always worth fighting for. In the days that followed, Emma and Jack worked to rebuild their relationship, slowly and patiently. They made time for each other again, learned to listen, and promised to never take their love for granted. And while the scars from their fights remained, they were no longer a source of pain. Instead, they were a reminder of how far they had come and how strong their love truly was. Love is never perfect. It's messy, it's challenging, and sometimes it feels like it's falling apart. But in the end, true love is about finding the strength to hold on, even when it feels impossible. If you enjoy this emotional journey, don't forget to subscribe for more stories that touch the heart and remind us of the power of love. Love is never perfect. It's messy, it's challenging, and sometimes it feels like it's falling apart. But in the end, true love is about finding the strength to hold on, even when it feels impossible. If you enjoy this emotional journey, don't forget to subscribe for more stories that touch the heart and remind us of the power of love.